Welcome back, everyone, to another case of the Mondays, where we sit back and we reflect at what the beginning of this week means and what last week meant. Or we just sit and talk about whatever. It doesn't have to be reflection. If I had to reflect on recent activities, I'd have to say that recently I had a good night. A really good night that ended in not such a good night. But we won't go into details too much on that. You ever have a really good night and such a good night that ends up being kind of a bad night? Yeah, we outdid ourselves a little bit. At least I did. I did outdo myself a little bit last night. Had a little fun. Was thinking about a lot of stuff and just enjoying ourselves. And to be fair, I probably partook a little bit of the adult beverages too much. Not to the point of throwing up or anything like that, but to the point of not feeling so good this morning. But thanks to Katie, I am up and at it and feeling just a lot better. Well, we'll move on to a different subject. How's everyone else's Monday doing? I see a lot of people in the chat. We got 15 viewers so far by the looks of it. We'll read off a couple people, Katie, that are here.
It looks like we have Red, Alex from Fathom, Boots and Cats, Peplin, June from Only Oscars, Sturdy Tank. And we just had Dee Dee come in, and Rosie's here, Shady Grady's here, Mexicali's here.
You know what? I guess the whole time I was on mute.
That's becoming a thing with you.
Is it?
Yeah.
Did I start the whole time on mute again?
Yep.
That's probably good because I confessed everything that I did last night, and it's probably a good thing I had the mute button on. Oh, God. It's warm in here. All right. How about we just bring our guest on and I quit acting stupid, huh? Let's welcome Jorge. He's our Mexicali Fishkeeper. Everybody knows him. He's all our friend. Let's get to know him a little better. Come on up, man.
And for the record, you weren't muted. We heard everything you confessed.
Oh, no. Really?
Yeah.
You probably heard it through Katie's microphone then.
I just heard something about a whole jar of KY jelly. That's it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then you had a weird limp this morning when you got up.
You know, I was hungry and wanted some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Grabbed the wrong jar, man. That's what it was.
I'm surprised you're up and about. You had a good one on last night.
I did. Yeah. Yes, I did. It took a little while to wake up this morning, and then I did do a small water change. I managed to do that. I carried 1 bucket of water, which was agonizing. It was a urine bucket.
Yeah, that's called going to the restroom in the morning when you get up.
Yeah.
The water change.
Yep. Time for a water change. So how's your Monday been?
Well, definitely better than yours.
Yeah. Most likely true.
It was interesting. It's I guess because April Fools. I mean, everything that could go wrong was going wrong at work.
Oh
Usually
man.
I'm out of there like 15 till because we kind of relieve each other. Like we all show up 15 minutes early. We do the pass down. No later than top of the hour. We're on the road home.
Yeah.
Well, just how it happened today. Um, the guy that was in the back desk, he's the one that gives us all the orders and stuff like that for the day. I guess he
Hmm.
did his math wrong, and we couldn't come up with the right numbers because we gotta be able to close out the day, and everything's got to match up, all the orders and everything that we do.
Yeah.
So we were like 54 feet short, and he couldn't figure out what was wrong. Well, it
Hmm.
turns out, I guess he had gotten a change right before he finished completing his worksheet for us, but he didn't account for that. So that's why we couldn't match up the numbers. So I didn't leave till like 20 after, which is unheard of for me.
You know what's weird with stuff like that is that everyone's ready to go and they're kind of frantic, want to take off from work. So it makes like finding simple answers to stuff like that really hard. Like you
Yeah.
end up
Well,
Right in front of you.
overthinking stuff and you end
it
up being
wasn't
way late.
until our boss walked in and he kind of looked at it real quick and he goes, "Did you account for that last change they gave you?" And he's like, "Oh no." He goes, "Well, go run the numbers again." So he went back in there, and sure enough, that's what it was. Because
Nice.
usually we can tell because it's like a very specific amount, and it's kind of like, and then we had run the numbers prior to those changes, and everything was matching up. So we knew it was something with the worksheet that he was giving us for the new orders for the afternoon. So, but
Nice.
it just it happens once in a while. But again, the guy that was doing this, he hasn't been in that position for more than a year, so he's still like in the learning process, and so he's
Yeah.
still kind of some of those things will slip by him, and luckily our other supervisor was there, and he kind of said, "Hey, quit worrying about it. Think about
Yeah.
this rationally, and
Hmm.
you'll figure it out." Because I guess he immediately, as soon as he saw it, he knew what was up.
Yeah.
But he,
It's probably happened to him before. You
yeah,
know.
and he wanted the guy that was doing them to kind of think about it. It's kind of like
Hmm.
it's there. Think about what you didn't do, and
Right.
finally he figured it out. But I
Nice.
didn't want to say nothing, but I was kind of like looking at the clock, and it's one of those things where you got to do something, and the clock is just moving a lot quicker than it always.
Uh
I
huh.
was looking, I was like, oh, it takes me about 20 minutes to get home. I'm gonna be cutting it close, and yeah, I was
Oh
able to
man.
log in like 3 minutes prior to top of the hour. So
That's that's fine. Because when we had vibes on, he was running
yeah, but
into
Vibes is
something
always
too.
late.
That's true.
Vibe is
That's true.
always late,
But
and I
he informed
hate
us
being
well
late.
in front.
I
He
hate
informed
being
us
late.
in time. Oh,
And it's funny because one night I was talking smack about Vibes being late, and the
yeah.
following morning I had a guest, a friend of mine, which makes even matters worse. And I showed up like 15 minutes late, just after I finished ripping Vibes a new one for being late all the time. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what goes
Yeah.
around comes around.
Yeah. That happens. I'm not a fan of being late either. I tend to get really antsy and get a lot of anxiety, especially
Yeah,
like right before doing one of these, because then I see, okay, the time's clicking down to whatever, and
yeah.
that's
That's
why
why
I
I
end
was.
up starting off with a mute button engaged, because I'm too
That's why I
worried
was
about
trying to
everything
keep you in the
else.
loop and letting you know, hey, I'm this many minutes out because I like my thing is if you're 15 minutes before, you're early. If you're on
Yep.
time, you're late. So
Right.
Yep.
so that's always been my thing,
Yep.
and so I always try to be wherever it is that I need to be with plenty of time. I don't. You never know
Hmm.
what's going to happen along the way that'll make you run late. I just can't. I I don't know. It's one of my pet peeves. I put it to you like that.
Yeah.
I
There are
can't
people
stand
that
people
are
that are.
perpetually late all the time, and it's usually because it's not so much them being lazy; they just think that everything's gonna wind up being smooth. And so, like you said, something always comes up. It usually does, and then those people always have an excuse. Well, like, what this happened? Well, maybe you should have left a little earlier. You know, take into account the things that taking into account the unknowns, the variables. It's good advice for life in general, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's just, and I get it. As a host, you're wondering, where's the guest? Is he going to be here? Is he not? It didn't help that
Yeah.
I kept joking with you guys that I might not show up on April
Yeah.
Fool's Day. So.
Uh-huh. that ran through my mind.
I'm an asshole, but I'm not that much of an asshole.
No, I don't think you are, man.
Well, I can be.
I think we all have the ability. Except for me, right, Kitty?
I plead the fifth.
Yeah. I see. So, a lot of things been going on with you as far as watching your videos on your channel lately with your aquarium setup at the Children's Museum. Man, I really enjoy that series. That's really cool.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's finally done. We finally, what was it, on Friday? I was able to drive up to Phoenix to pick up the fish, but even that was driving me nuts because the problem for me is that I run things on a schedule, and I hate it when things don't go along that schedule.
Yep.
One of the main reasons why I was kind of hesitant to accept help from everybody else, because I'm very bad at that. And you can talk to Steve. Steve will tell you that I was annoying the hell out of him because I kept calling him every day. I said, hey, I hate having to depend on other people. It just drives me nuts. That's just, it's always been the case. I'd rather do things my way, myself, on my schedule. I know how long it takes me to do something. So when I have to depend on other people, it just, I don't know. I become an annoyance to those people. That's why I don't like working with other people, because if you tell me, hey, it's going to be done in an hour, guess what? I'm expecting it to be done in an hour. Don't tell me an hour and wait 3 or 4 days. So, it's just, I don't know. I've always been that way. And that's I don't know if it's a fault or something of mine, but it's just,
we all have our preferences. I don't think it's
I think it's
necessarily a fault.
instilled into us from our parents or another authority figure in our life. I know my mom and my grandma were that way, and I just automatically follow their footsteps.
Yeah. My dad was always
bossy.
real strict on being on time. Well, it's funny because I was just having this conversation with my wife yesterday. My dad was a big stickler for us to be where we needed to be on time. Him, not so much.
Right.
My dad's huge on that. He's kind of annoying for me in the fact that if he planned to do something, like he'll say, well, I'll be there, I'll pick you up at 4. He's there at like 20 minutes too. I'm wondering why I'm, haven't got my shoes on yet, kind of a thing. It's like, I thought we said 4, not 3:30, kind of a thing. So he takes it to the extreme all the time. And I remember as a kid, we'd be ready to want to go and do something as a family. He'd be the first one ready, and he'd be just pacing and just drive my mom crazy. Just tell him, why don't you just sit down and relax? It was like, well, I'm ready. Why aren't you ready yet? And it's like, it's 2 hours till we have to go, Dad. And so it's that kind of a deal. Is a little bit on the extreme side, but in order to be an efficient person and try to get things done and accomplished, you got to have a schedule. You got to have set limitations as far as, well, it's going to take this long, so let's get it done in that amount of time. At least shoot really hard for it. And I don't think that's a fault that you have. I think that you're just a good
I don't know why
work ethic.
Time management has always been a big deal for me. It's not. You know what it is? It's probably because growing up I was so hyperactive that if I didn't focus on certain things that I needed to do, I'd get distracted very easily and would never accomplish anything. So I think as a coping skill for that, time management has always been a thing for me. It's like, no, I know. It's funny because after a while, like I already know, like when I'm driving, my wife, she laughs at me because we'll be driving, like, for example, it takes me about 3.5 hours to get from Yuma to Phoenix. And we'll be driving along. She goes, "How long do you think it'll be before we get there?" And since I've done that drive multiple times, I've already got markers along the way that if I see them, I know, okay, from this marker on forward, it's 45 minutes or it's 2 hours or it's that.
Yeah.
So she'll be, "How do you do that?" I said, "I don't know. It's just one of those things wherever I'm driving, I'm looking at things and they'll register. And then I kind of make a mental note of what, how long it took me to get there. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, and it's always happened. But then again, most of my jobs have required driving of one sort or another. So it just became like an unconscious thing there. It's like, okay, I'm out this far away. I need to go make some changes at this other place. It's going to take me about 45 minutes. And then you start figuring out, okay, what's the quickest way for me to get there? If I go down this street around this time, there's going to be this traffic, or seems like I'm going the longer way around, but in reality, it's quicker because I'm not dealing with any of the traffic. So, it's just, but it's always, even from when I was in the service, I guess it was one of those things where, you had a checkpoint and you had to be at that checkpoint by a certain amount of time. So you had to get there,
that that will definitely instill it into you.
Yeah.
Military and being on time that way. There's no ways around it. You have to be there on time. I do the same. I used to do the same thing as far as driving when I had to drive. The last position I had was a store manager, but the place was it was probably about 35, 40-minute drive one way. So not very far, but I did the same thing when you were talking about checkpoints. I knew, and I just knew when I went past other towns or other exits, I automatically look at the clock and I could tell if I was on time or not. Or if I was running a little bit late, then okay, got to kick up the speed a little bit, and then be able to make. I knew about how far I was in more of amount of a time than a distance thing. I didn't know how many miles away I was, but I knew how many minutes away I was from it. Right?
Yeah. It's like when I drive to Phoenix, I know once I hit Dayland, which is a little like exit along the highway, and it's basically a gas station. I know that's like the halfway point. So I figured, okay, I got this much time left to get to so and so place. And but it's just, it's time is one of those things for me that, and the other thing is, I don't know. I heard it a long time ago, and it's so true. The only thing you can never get back is time. So, time management has become a very important thing throughout my entire life. It's just kind of like, all right, you got to make it. You only get so many of those minutes in a lifespan.
True.
So you try to make the most of them.
That's a very good way of looking at it. I've thought about that myself. And a lot of times, as far as the jobs I've had and the amount of money that I'd make per hour, I think about, well, what's an hour of my life worth? Is it worth, I think about that sometimes, about the pay that's out there sometimes in different jobs. Do you think, trying to get back on what I was on my own subject, I guess. Do you think that project went smooth for you? As far as, was there a lot of hangups?
It went smooth. It went smooth overall. It didn't go smooth in my in how I envisioned it to go, because I didn't expect it to take this long. They had a big event on the 22nd. So in my mind, I said, all right, well, that's perfect, because I'll be done by the 15th. Give it time to cycle. I'll do all these other things. It'll be settled in, and it'll be ready to go for when they have the big gala event that they had at the museum for a fundraiser. Okay. So I had already, I knew how long things were going to take me to get them done. But when you just kind of waiting on things to happen and that are out of your control, that's where I started getting impatient. But at the end of the day, everything still worked out. We
Yeah.
still managed to get it. I just hate cutting it close. That drives me nuts.
Uh huh.
We were there the last day setting everything up, and
Yeah, I could tell you were a little bit frantic in that video, just kind of a little more on the stress
yeah,
side. Um, and I have to hand it to you. I mean, you had to drive all the way to the airport to get those fish. Was that all on the same day?
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
then
That
you
was all
had
the
to
same day.
head back there and
That's crazy.
drive back and then do all of that. Yeah, I think my brain would have been a little bit fried even just from having to drive that far and back just to get the fish, but
Yeah.
then have to set up the tank.
Well,
But
that
you had a friend helping you, which was nice.
yeah, yeah. He was a big help, and he kind of scapes. He's actually done some competitive scaping and stuff like that. So I said when
Cool.
he offered to help me, I said, "Well, hell, you're gonna have to definitely do something a lot better that I could probably pull off." Um, so it was just
That's
one of those
cool.
things where it was a no brainer for me. But even him, we were supposed to have done it like uh, a Thursday. Well, I think I had even mentioned it because I had gone to finally drop off the stand and all this other stuff. So we were going to escape it the following day, but he had some health issues and he couldn't make it. And
Mm.
kind of sucks how much of an asshole I am because of the time that I was actually, instead of being
Yeah,
concerned of his health, I was like, God damn it.
yeah. Well,
And
that's just
but
natural.
it's just I don't know. It's one of those things where I constantly have to step back and go, all right, relax, dude. Everything's gonna be fine. Uh,
Yeah,
you know, it'll work out in the long run. But it's just it cut it to the point where one day before the big event, it was set up. We didn't have any fish in it though. I had to wait a day, the following day, to be able to get the fish. But at least we had it up and running. And
yeah,
even that, just the aquarium itself, um, from what the the executive director for the museum, she was super happy, super impressed. And well, at the end of the day, that's all that really matters because it is for them. Um,
yeah.
and they were very, very pleased, very, very pleased. And once the fish went in there, it was like a done deal. Um, the following day, we're a relatively small town, and the museum is coming up on its first year anniversary, I think, this month. And
Oh,
so it hasn't been open very long, but they had quite a for that museum. They had quite a bit of traffic. I think it was Saturday morning. They had over 150 visits from the kids,
nice.
and she said they had a little group of just always constantly around the aquarium. So
That's
at the end of the
cool.
day, that was the objective
Hmm.
to be able to set something up that would draw the kids to it, and that couldn't have been more successful than that. Even kids, adults, everybody that was going in there was really taken aback by it and really enjoyed
Right.
it. Um, there were some other things that I wasn't happy with, but I think I'm being hypercritical of it.
Well,
But
that's
it's
just
just
that's just part of having a passion for doing things and wanting to do it right. You know,
yeah,
we're always our own worst critics, no matter what. But I thought the tank looked awesome. I imagine in person it was even better. And like the comment I left on that one video is just the thought that maybe at least one kid out of all those is going to spark something inside them, like a memory that they'll always have of that one tank they saw. My parents brought me there, and I saw it, and I fell in love with fish, and they kind of been that way ever since. Have you ever had experiences like that in your life, or as far as
you know what?
you keeping
It,
fish, or has it
it
been?
it is so funny because I remember the one live stream where I was talking about what had happened and getting that experience. I didn't realize it's funny how we go through life and some stuff will just kind of push down and lock away and you don't want to ever think about it anymore.
Hmm.
But that live stream, I didn't realize I unpackaged some down deep stuff in there because it got the
Yeah.
best of me. Because I've always remembered aquariums being something that I've always been attracted to,
Yeah.
but I didn't remember how much they meant to me and how much it affected me not being able to have them when I was a kid. That when I started talking about it, it just kind of took me back to that and remembering
Yeah.
um, what it was like, to be able to be in a place and sit there and experience an aquarium, even if it was something that I knew I couldn't have for obvious reasons. Once, growing up, we had enough money to be able to have a roof over our heads, clothes on our backs, and be able to feed us. And believe it or not, an aquarium is sort of a luxury. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where when situations are tight, you're not really thinking about setting up an aquarium. The other thing was
Right.
my dad or my mom have never kept aquariums, so they didn't really have an interest in that. And if they were to get me something like that, um, it would have been something where who would have who would have taught me anything about it because I was too young.
Right.
It
Yeah.
wasn't until I was in my late teens that I finally was able to um, be able to save up some money and be able to buy an aquarium and set it up. And even then, it took me a while to figure out what was going on because back then, we're talking about the late 80s, early 90s. There wasn't, and say, isn't that how you met your wife? She needed help with a fishbowl. And, it's not a fishbowl, but you're not too far off how I met my wife. And she can tell you that story. It was very that's subject for another day, but you're not too far off of it, Eduardo. And I've never told that story either, which is funny because you kind of almost nailed it. Um, uh, and it was always one of those things where I could remember, and I don't think it's as common now, but I can remember growing up. You went to the dentist's office; they had an aquarium. Any
Oh yeah.
medical facilities, they had aquariums, and I
I think it was
remember.
a prerequisite for dental things.
Right.
I
You
don't
had to
know.
be-
Mine had one.
You had to be a fish keeper. It was part of the studies, I think, in the college courses for dentistry.
And
Seems like
and
it.
the other, yeah, and the other one was down here. I don't know if the rest of the country's like that, but we have a lot of Chinese food restaurants, and all the Chinese food restaurants had goldfish at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Or they would have like these lazy rivers on the outside, and they would have koi fish and
Yep.
turtles out there. That's what my exposure to all of that was, and I could sit there for hours and just watch. It's one of those things. That was one of the few times where that hyperactiveness that I had would just kind of go away. It would melt away, and I could sit there and look, and I
It
could spend
held your
hours.
focus.
Yeah, it did really did. It was so funny. I people think I'm joking around when I say this, but um, I remember as a early, you know, late, the early teens, when you're like 12, 13, somewhere around there,
Hmm.
we would go to Walmart. And I used to hate going to the store, and my mom would drag us with us because she couldn't leave us at home. But I would always go to Walmart. Every time she said, "Let's go to Walmart," I was like, "Let's go." And she already knew. She didn't even have to worry about it. I'd tell her, "Hey, I'm going to go look at the aquariums." I could
Yeah.
spend the entire time she was shopping and just sit there and be looking at fish.
I remember
And
days like that too, man. I really do. That's a that's a memory for me as well.
and you
think
sit
that's
there
where
and
we
you're
got
looking
some
at
of
them.
our first fish when I was little.
Yeah. So that's where that whole. I remember thinking, when I start working and I finally, have a job that pays. 'Cause I've always worked, but to actually have a paying job, I was always thought, my first check, I'm gonna go buy uh, an aquarium. I didn't know how. I really didn't have any idea how much the aquarium was going to cost, but
Right.
um, I figured I'll save up whatever amount of dollars for it. I knew what the fish cost because that's one of the things I would always do is sit there and look, and
Yeah.
you would always see the little tiny Oscars. I had no idea how big they got, but they were always really neat when you saw
Yeah.
them when they were small. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get one of those, and I'm gonna get the piranhas. But California doesn't allow you to have piranhas. They weren't piranhas; they were pacus. I didn't know how big they would get, but I was, oh yeah, that one that looks like a piranha. I knew what a piranha looked like, so I thought that's
Hmm.
what I said. I'm gonna get an Oscar. I'm gonna get a piranha. Yeah, those were did not work out very well in a 10-gallon aquarium when I first started
No,
up.
no, I bet not. I know that one of the first fish bowls was a fish bowl that I got when I was in grade school, and my mom picked up for my sister and I, and those fish just kept dying. I mean, my mom kind of was the one that had to do the maintenance, but she didn't know what she was doing either. She'd dump everything out, put the fish in a different thing, clean up everything, put them in there, and of course they would end up dying. No water treatments, nothing like that. But it
See,
was
yeah, I was gonna say,
we'd bury the fish, and have like oh, it feels so bad for like 5 minutes or whatever, and then move on to the next thing. And it wasn't until like I had same memories like you of going to Walmart and looking at their aquarium section, which they don't have anymore. I mean,
no.
they don't have live fish anymore, but it was just I always thought it was cool. I'd spent hours while everyone else was shopping looking at that, and it wasn't until I was in high school that I was able to like use my own money, had my own job, and I bought my first aquarium and tried to learn some of that stuff. But I was pretty awful fish keeper at that point too, because other things in life when you're a high school guy, you don't always pay attention to what's going on with your aquarium. But it was a passion of mine for a long time. But
Well,
just thinking about like it as a kid, just seeing the fish and being kind of in awe of like how do they get these fish into this glass box, and it just becomes it's a little more of a miraculous thing, and I feel like it kind of comes back even as an adult to watch fish through an aquarium glass pane and see a different world other than ours on the other side, and I don't know if the thought of like having some kids nowadays be able to have that experience instead of having something like this in front of their face all the time, that they'd actually like put it down for a second and look at something that's real. Man, that's a cool
I
thought.
I think aquariums still do have that power, and the reason I say that is because I have my grandkids, and yes, babe. Okay, all right. Just found out my son's taking us to Roadhouse in a couple of hours.
Nice.
Ooh, nice.
Wear big pockets. For
Talking about my
biscuits.
grandkids, what I was getting at is my grandkids. Today's kids. This is the babysitter, right? That's what parents always give them. All right, keep yourself entertained. But the reason I say that I know aquariums still have that ability to make this go away is because every time the grandkids come here, we'll come in and hang out here, and they'll look at everything, and they'll
Yeah.
ask me questions about it. It's just one of those things that I think most kids, it's just kind of curiosity. It just kind of pulls you in.
Oh yeah.
Like you said, it's just being able to see nature in a box. Something that you normally can't see unless you go swimming in a river or waterway or something like that. So yes, I
Yeah.
think aquariums do have that ability to still make people forget about technology and
Hmm.
just pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, your nephew, Katie.
Yeah, he came up to us. He came up to us at Easter dinner after we were done eating, and he goes, "Hey, how are your fish doing?" And he hasn't been here probably in a year, I would say.
Yeah, I think it was last fall or
Yeah,
not
it was when it
quite
was
a year.
chilly out, so our ponds were kind of closed down, and you really couldn't see a whole lot in them. And Jake brought him in the fish room to show him all the fish, and he was just like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah, and this is a kid that, like we were saying, he spends a lot of time in front of the screen.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
unfortunately he's got a split family, and on one side of the family, that's pretty much all he. They just give him a tablet or a phone, and that's what he's sits and does all the time. So when he's with the other part of the family, we try to get him away from that, and they do a great job. And he's just an excellent kid, really smart. But to have him like remember that when we don't get to see him that much because of the family situation that he has, but have him actually ask us about how our fish are doing, because it's kind of a unique trait for a lot of kids. I think that they would stop thinking about themselves. Not saying that all kids are a-holes or anything, but especially when you're young, you're closer, you're more likely to be self-centered because you're at that age where just things are coming at you. Life is about yourself for the most part, and even more so in kids nowadays, I think, in general. Anyways, to have him like stop thinking about whatever and ask us how our fish are doing, it was kind of a neat thing that I thought, well, it's gotten through to him a little bit, just that little interaction. So maybe we'll talk to him about getting a small little aquarium, or get one for him and see. But he's got to, being in a split house like that,
It's hard.
I mean, somebody's going to have to take care of it for him when he's not there. But
Or you could set one up in your place, so when he comes and visits, that's his aquarium.
yeah, that'd be cool. That's a good idea. But
The condition is he's got to do water changes when he does come and visit.
he's got to carry the buckets for me. Oh man, I can't wait till we get running water out here. It'll be great. I wanted to ask you another question, I guess, just more of a personal question, as far as, do you have other hobbies, other things that you like to do besides fish keeping?
You know what? Yeah, I enjoy sports. I mean, sports have always been a big part of me growing up. As a matter of fact, I was still playing baseball up until my mid-30s, organized baseball. And
Nice.
so that's always been a big thing. So I like going out to the ballpark, catching a game. I really enjoy that. Although it's getting more and more expensive nowadays.
Well, I bet.
Where for $20 you could go to a ball game, have a couple of beers and maybe a hot dog.
Right.
$20 is just getting you in the door. That's not including parking and everything else that goes along with it. By it's all said and done, you've already dropped a couple of $100 on one game.
Yeah, it used to be where you could just get kind of the outfield high seats somewhere cheap. At least you were there, at the game. It doesn't have to be real close-up seats, and they're bargain seats.
You
get for
really
like
did
$8.
It's more of the
I remember
that
even when
energy.
I was younger.
Yeah, the energy from the fans, and
Oh yeah.
that eruption, that pop that happens when a good play takes place and everybody
Yeah.
simultaneously just either gasp, cheers, or whatever. Those are the things that is kind of like, oh, that's so cool. You don't get to experience that unless you're there at the ballpark.
Right.
But because otherwise you're doing it by yourself in front of the TV. So yeah, that I guess is one of my hobbies. I do enjoy that. I'm a big car nut. I mean, I love muscle cars. I don't like working on. I don't know much about working on them,
Right.
but I do like to look at them. It's one of those things where, and I know a little bit about engines and cars and stuff like that, but wrenching is not my thing. But I do
I'm the same way.
I enjoy the work and the craftsmanship that goes behind putting together these machines. That I really do, and I'll sit there and I'll watch somebody work on a car. I have no problem. I mean, and I thoroughly enjoy it. Prior to me being consumed by fish videos, it used to be, the retro videos, where somebody gets a junker and they
Yeah.
find it out there in a barn find and they go through the whole I would watch those videos all the time. So that's another thing that I really do enjoy a lot. And I guess now that I'm older, I kind of like having quiet time, and that
Mhm.
means for me a cigar and a whiskey. Those
Yeah.
those two things are things that I truly enjoy. And because I
Yeah.
don't do them on a regular basis, I can kind of indulge. So I'll get a nice cigar, I'll get a nice bottle of whiskey because I'm
Hmm.
only going to have a couple, and I'm not going to get unless it was New Year's, like this last New
Yeah.
Year's, where we went
You
in
won't get
deep.
like me
Alex and
last
I,
night.
yeah, Alex and I went pretty deep, and I think that was one of the only times that I've actually been drunk in the last 20 years or so.
That's good. Um, do you,
Katie's giving you side eye.
yeah. Well, I'm starting a new position at my work next week, and I was just I don't know in the mood to have fun and kind of celebrate a little
You
bit.
got
So
to do that once in a while.
yeah,
I mean, you can't. I mean, you know what? It's if you don't do it on a regular basis, it's even better because when it does happen, it's that more fun and that
yeah,
more enjoyable. And if you get a little bit too carried away the following day, it's kind of well worth it. Because you don't do that on a regular basis.
right.
So
And this the getting up there in age thing don't recover as quickly. So it's like a little more of a deterrent. Like, yeah, I don't want to feel dead for the next 2 days
well, my
because of
mistake
that.
was
But
trying to keep up with Alex. He's like 30 years younger than I am, so
uh-huh.
you know, I don't bounce back as quickly as I used to. It was funny because we were laughing about that when we were in the service. Come Friday afternoon, you were done with your duties, so you can just take off. And you know, when I was stationed in Georgia at Fort Gordon, it's in Augusta, Georgia, so there's not a whole lot to do around there, other than the local nightlife. So it wasn't uncommon for us to spend the entire weekend just partying and
Hmm.
show up on Monday still mostly drunk and working at going through a smoke session. That's what we used to call it, where you just do calisthenics all morning long and the whole formation would smell like alcohol, but you get it out of your system and you were fine for
Yeah.
the rest of the afternoon and the week, all ready to go again on Friday.
Hmm.
But yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. I'll be hurting for at least a week and a half, 2 weeks, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, that was like a week ago, and I'm still feeling it.
Hmm. Yeah. It's just not worth it anymore for
Oh, it's
sure.
worth it. It's just not worth it every day.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's not even like on a weekly basis of hitting it that hard anymore. No, we'll have our couple beers every night. That's kind of like our thing. So that's I guess probably more than a lot of other people drink, but it's just kind of our way of relaxing. We get home from work, we crack a couple cold beers, do our fish work, listen to some music. A lot of nights we play darts, but it wasn't like last night. It
You
was
know
getting
what?
a
I
little
was really
crazy.
impressed. I was really impressed because me sober will miss the board on occasion. You didn't miss the board at all.
I
Actually,
was not
you were
doing
putting
good.
them in the triples, and it was like, damn, that
Oh, that's
sucks.
right.
Yeah, you hit
I
a
hit a
ton
ton
80.
80 last night. Maybe
So
I
it's
should
like,
drink more
that's not
often when I'm
bad for
playing.
being wasted and still being able to hit your target.
That's
That's
only
pretty
the 12th
impressive.
I've ever hit, but it took me a long time before I got my first one of those, and when I did, I just went insane because ton 80, if people don't know, is 180 points. It's the highest you can score on a dartboard is 3 triple 20s. It's a tiny little sliver of the board. And, but I would get close a lot of times. I'd get the first two, and I'd still be feeling it. I'm like, I can do it, but it's like, it gets in your head right away. It's like, okay, here it goes, the last dart. Or some kind of thought goes through your mind, and it's such a mental game that way. So unless you're just maybe because last night I was just winging it, having fun, not
Yep.
overthinking anything, I nailed 3 in a row like that, and
Yeah, you just let muscle
pretty
memory
cool.
take over and not the
Yeah,
overthinking it. It was just
yeah,
kind of like, all right, here we go, and
yeah.
able to pull it off.
Maybe darts is more for dumb people or something that don't think at all.
Oh
They
no,
can
no, I
do
wouldn't
really
say
well.
that. I wouldn't say that because you still got a math.
Yeah, well, that's something we really got into. That's our downtime. play with our fish, and then we sit and talk and shoot darts, and that's our thing. Vibes has got a question on here Katie put up on the screen. Wondering if you've gone wild collecting recently and found any new species.
I went to go scout a couple of the areas where I had gotten fish before, but no, I didn't get anything in there. It's probably still a little bit too cold. The temperatures need to warm up a little bit more, and they'll start coming out. But right now, unless they're in deep water, I'm not seeing them in the creeks that I normally find them.
That's something I kind of envy about you guys living in warmer regions, that you have cool fish to go and catch wild. I mean, we have lots of fish around here, but they're,
pretty blah.
Usually game fish of some sort, eating fish. And we're not allowed to keep them.
No.
Like in aquariums and stuff, so. But I might try anyways, I don't know. Just can't put it on the channel.
Camera.
I've been talking with Jeff Kane a little bit about that, just different species around here. I'm hoping that I get to meet him soon in person, since we don't live that far away. Hoping that we can both get some time off of work at the same time and away from family responsibilities, and be able to just kind of meet up either at my place or at his or something. It'd be kind of cool. I know there's a Fish Fam Wisconsin cookout that Foxy's hosting this summer, so at least we'll be able to meet him down there and hang out. It's not too far from our place. What's this?
They should. August 2nd is what Brian is saying.
Yep.
Cool. Yep, I'm going to write that down in the calendar at work. I need this off.
You guys need to do a live stream from that event. All you guys together.
That'd be cool.
That would be pretty cool.
Otherwise, it's going to be a bunch of us running around with cameras, filming each other.
Yeah.
I mean,
nothing wrong with that either.
Video is going to be like,
what he just changed the date on you. It's the 3rd, actually. The 2nd is Roxy's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the 5th is my birthday, so I can scheme that into work too. Be like, nice. I need this day through that day off. Maybe they'll let me.
Well, mine shouldn't be
a
problem.
They let me do whatever I want, so of course.
Garden season's pretty much over for us by then, so July on, it's easy for me to
just gotta find someone,
off.
Responsible enough to feed our fish for us while we're gone. That's my big scare. No.
Well, what kind of fish do you have? You don't have any monster fish, do you?
Soon.
It should be okay. I mean, I've left my entire fish room for 2 weeks, and they were fine. And you guys keep the similar style of aquariums. You guys keep plants in yours, and so I wouldn't worry too much about having to feed the fish. You'll run into more trouble trying to find somebody to feed them than if you leave them alone.
True.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I would recommend you do this this weekend. Last time you feed them is on Thursday. And the reason I say that is because you'll be home. So if you see something that you don't like, you can always feed them. But kind of start training yourself to understand that they'll survive. Feed them on Thursday and just watch them. Watch them Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then on Monday, feed them again. And you'll see they'll be fine. As a matter of fact, I've noticed that the longer I go without messing with my aquariums, the clearer the water gets.
Yeah, I can see that. Especially with adding food. I think that's probably the number one way of messing up the water, is that what we do is tossing in food, and they don't eat it all, so.
Yeah, you'll be surprised how many organisms are actually living in your aquarium. Roll up in the middle of the night one day and just kind of throw a flashlight in there. All of a sudden, you'll see worms, and you'll see all this other stuff that you did not realize you had in your aquarium. And worst case scenario, if you have snails, they'll eat the snails.
Right.
I mean,
well, that's why snails don't exist in our goldfish tanks, because they just.
Well, you'll be surprised some of the other fish will eat them too. they get hungry enough,
They'll find a
they're
way.
gonna survive.
I know that our shrimp and guppy fry tanks have a shrimp tank, a 10-gallon with some guppy fries in there, and I'm already seeing them peck off a few of the shrimp, and they're not
You
that big
know,
of a.
what I started doing unintentional. Well, the idea was I was culling my shrimp, and I would put it in the big community tanks where the bigger fish were at, and I thought, all right, they'll eventually they'll eat them. But if you have enough areas for them to hide out, before you know it, you have a colony of coals growing in that aquarium, which when you're not around will become food too. So, that's what I was saying. You'll be surprised how much you can pull off with having like a little ecosystem in your aquarium and not have to worry. You won't be a slave to your fish room. That's what I'm trying to get at. And believe it or not, the hobby becomes that much more enjoyable when you know you can get away for a week or two and not have to be worrying about the fish room. It just becomes that much better. And you're not stressing
We'll
about who's
definitely
going to
try
come
that.
in here, who's going to do this, who's going to do that.
Yeah.
Also, on that weekend, check out your nitrates. If you're concerned that your nitrates, if you have like this routine schedule of doing water changes just because you're afraid your nitrates are going to go up, try it over a weekend and not do water changes and see what happens.
Well, to be honest, we skip a lot of water changes, mostly because I got to carry all the buckets in here. But we've kind of found that out already that at least for us, water changes aren't as something that needs to be done on such a regular basis. We
Yeah.
just kind of keep our eye on things a little bit, and
Watch the fish
most
for
of the
sure.
time
Exactly.
having certain plants and the way you can have your tank set up. I think that a lot of the weekly or scheduled water changes aren't as necessary as one might think, at
I
least
mean,
for us.
well, again, going back to what I was saying, you guys keep heavily planted aquariums, so that kind of gives you that ability to really extend how far you can go without doing it. And like
Hmm.
Katie was saying, to me, my gauge now, but that's only because I've learned my behaviors is what usually will trigger me to start looking and go, okay, if I see something that is off, then I'll start paying a little bit more attention. Then I'll break out my test strips and do a little test, see what's going on. But half the time, really, the majority of my water changes now is just because I have time. That's really what it boils down to. I have time, so I'll go. All right,
Freshen it
I'll
up
do
a
a
little
water
bit.
change, but it's not like I'm set. I'm not slave to a schedule. That's what I'm trying to get at. I want to
Right.
make this the most enjoyment and least amount of work as possible for me.
Hmm.
That's how I want my hobby. Although I understand people that the work is the therapeutic part of the hobby. So that if that's what's making you enjoy it, then by all means do it because you're getting the benefit out of it. I rather sit in here and just hang out and watch my fish
Right.
and learn the behaviors.
I was talking to Katie about that the other day, maybe 2 days ago. That I wonder how many of us, and I mean in like this community of YouTubers that we all know, a question for everyone, I guess, is how much time do you spend actually just sitting and just enjoying watching an aquarium like you did when you were younger? Like if it was just just a decorative piece, or you're enjoying watching it, or are you spending more time trying to figure out a video or trying to make it a work type thing? And like you said, some people find therapy in actually working on their tanks, but I feel like sometimes it's easy to get caught up in those other aspects of the hobby and not just take a second, just sit on your butt and just look at the fish, enjoy the aquarium that you made, and kind of feel at ease that everything is all right.
Yeah, that's why people have said, "Oh, do you have all your aquariums drilled or set up for automatic?" I said, "No, I don't because I unless I like I said, unless I see something that's off, half the times I just leave it alone. I just leave it
Hmm.
alone. Come in here, enjoy the fish, hang out, do a live stream, whatever it is that I'm doing. But I try to enjoy more of it, and like I said, I'm more of an enjoyment and less work. That's my
Right.
motto.
Yeah. Our 75-gallon tank we have over there, it's really heavily planted. That deep substrate one, I've done a water change on it two
Twice.
or three times, probably since like November, I think we set that up, or October last year.
Yeah,
And
October.
we were just talking, we should probably make another video soon because the plants have gone crazy and there's just been an awesome tank. And our other little planted tank that we got in front of the pond there, the hex front, that hasn't been really, I haven't done anything with that for a while because I've been too busy working on other stuff. And it's actually some of the cleanest, clearest water that we have right now in any of our aquariums. And it's not really heavily stocked, but the plants are doing good. There was a string algae problem. Now it's kind of balanced itself out where we still have some, but it's kind of grown into its own little formation and it's not taking over the tank. And it's just beautiful. Just leaving it alone for a little while. Get your hands out of there and let it be. And I've topped off some water. That's about it due to evaporation. But those tanks really, they really do care for themselves for the most part, more than a person might think.
Yeah, it's funny because the clearest water I have is in a tote that doesn't even have a filter or anything in it. It's just a one of those 20-gallon totes that, that you people use as an ice chest. I have
Hmm.
it was like a grow out for some platies that I got, and once in a while I'll throw a little bit of food in there just because I remember I have it. But it's just kind of one of those set it and forget it. But
Hmm.
as a matter of fact, I think I even did a short on Instagram where it's the top is totally covered in duckweed and other floating plants, and I pull back on it, and it's just crystal clear. It's
Yep.
got a little bit of tannins because it's got some stuff
Yeah.
in there for that, but you know, I I've gotten to the point now where I don't worry about traveling. If I got something that's going on, I know I can leave and everything. I'm going to come back and everything will be fine. The worst thing that'll happen because I don't run lids is they'll have a jumper. That's like the worst thing that's going to happen in my fish room. That's it.
Yeah, we have a couple. The goldfish for sure. We have a lid on that, and the pond isn't. But the water's down enough where they don't really. If they jump, they usually land back in it. It's enough surface area, but I worry about it sometimes on the 75. It's not completely covered, and then our 29 over here is not covered at all. Um,
So far, we've been lucky.
yeah, haven't had a jumper yet, except for that. Well, we had him in that temporary little pond
Yeah, that
when
was
we
a
were
given, though.
set up. Yeah, looked over and all of a sudden one of our brand new fish was on the floor. I'm like, oh, okay, we got to put something over that for now. But
Yeah. My
it
worst
wasn't out
jumpers,
long.
my worst jumpers have been yo-yo loaches, and it's funny
Really?
because as long as they're small, I would want to say like 2.5 inches or smaller. I don't have a problem with it. But once they get over 3 inches, um, I guess they build enough strength and velocity that they'll shoot up from the bottom and they'll work their way out of the aquarium. But those are
Wow.
the ones that I've lost the most. So, but I can't put lids on my aquarium, especially during the summer, because I'll boil my fish. My tanks, as it is in the summer, are running and north of 85 degrees. They're between 85 90 degrees, but our temperature outside is 114
Hmm.
116. So I managed to bring the temperature down in here because I run an evaporative cooler, and then I have a lot of uh, fans, and that air movement, also kind of acts as an evaporator because I don't have any lids on the aquarium. That's the reason why I don't have lids, and
Yeah.
it'll cool them off. Now I'm having to do top offs like every other day because I'll literally lose, and I've recorded it where I'll lose 2 to 3 inches of water over a course of a couple of days. It's just a
Well,
lot of
yeah.
evaporation. And then being out here in Arizona, it's like really dry, so it seems like the ambient air will suck up whatever moisture it can get its hands on.
It gets dry out here too with our furnace. We got a wall furnace, one of those stand-up ones in this shop, and in the wintertime, it's always very dry, anyways. So, but I think we keep. It looks like it keeps around 50% humidity in here, which isn't super
Yeah,
humid. It's somewhat
that's
nice, but I
exactly
think
what
a
I'm
lot of
sitting at right
that's
now.
it's usually because of the aquariums in here evaporating off. So we have to top them off a lot more in the wintertime. In the summertime, it gets super hot, especially in the afternoon, because as the sun kind of moves across the sky, it's really beating down on this part of the building with not much shade. So it'll get hot in here. So I think we'll work on a little bit of a screen door probably or something that we can have up.
More air circulation in the
Yeah.
summer.
Do have a couple windows that we can open up in here and it's fine. But
It should be interesting this summer because we have more tanks now than we did last summer.
oh yeah,
So
far.
we'll see how hot they actually get.
Yeah, no, the summers are pretty. That's the toughest part for me. The winter, I could literally just not that I have to, but I think it's more of a personal reason why I run. Excuse me, a small space heater in the area, and I'll keep it around 75 degrees, so the aquariums will be in the upper 60s, lower 70s for the most part in the winter. Um,
Nice.
and I guess again, that's more for peace of mind for me because I think as long as what I've learned with fish is because it's a gradual change of temperature. It's not radical. It doesn't happen overnight. The fish will adapt. Now, behaviors will change. You'll notice for me when the temperature starts getting colder and they don't breed as much, they don't eat as much, um, and so I just got to be conscious of that. In the summer, it's the opposite. Everything is like sped up. Everything is like on nitrous. Everything's going faster. I have shrimp in most of my aquariums, and that's when I have the big booms. Yes, it shortens the life of them, but I'm having so many of them that it doesn't even matter.
Right.
So it's just the only thing is it's the summers are brutal for my plants, for most of my plants. Like moss will go crazy during the winter, and it'll get real nice and green and lush, but by end of July, it's all brown, and I have a little clump. It's funny because I will always manage to get a lot of it. I'll fill up like a 10-gallon aquarium, and by the time September rolls around, I'll have little specks of it that survived, and then it goes through that whole process over the winter again.
Kind of sounds like perennials.
Yeah,
Winter.
yeah, sort of. And I can't keep Java fern. That's the only, Java fern for me. It's just my water temperatures are way, way too hot. They don't survive. They don't survive the summer.
And we've noticed our Amazon sword plant has just gotten huge lately.
It's coming out the top of the 75-gallon tank.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'd say it's probably, well, it's on top of deep substrate. It's, God, foot and a half maybe.
That.
Yeah.
Oh, the plant. I thought that was your
Yeah.
Plant
substrate.
itself.
I was like, man, that's
no,
some
no,
deep
no.
substrate. No
Red
wonder it's coming out of the top. You only got
Yeah.
2 inches of the water at the top.
That's deep substrate.
It's called ice
Extreme
cube.
deep substrate.
Eduardo, the problem with ice cubes is that I'd have to have a ice house to be able to keep running ice cubes through this thing. It's just no. What I really need to do is I need to save up. I need to save up some of my monetization money and buy myself a little mini split for
Yep.
the garage. Once I do that, I'm not going to have any issues. I don't. As a matter of fact, if I could run that in the summer and keep the ambient temperature in here in the low 80s, that's perfect
Hmm.
because the water temperature will be 3 or 4 degrees lower than that, which is ideal for fish.
Yeah.
So, and in the
Yeah, we
winter, as
thought
long
about
as I
that
keep
too.
it around 70, everything will be fine. I don't, like I said, it's one of those things where it's just gradually the fish will acclimatize and they'll be fine.
Yeah.
So, um, I've watched a few of your videos, and I know some of your background, but I, it's kind of the point of doing this is trying to get to know you, and so I ask a few questions like, how many tanks do you have? Do you know,
Let me see.
like in
I don't
in
know.
that
It's like
room with you?
32, I think. I think it's
Oh.
like 31,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Oh no, it's 29. It's only 29.
We
Nice,
Oh
got
no,
room
the
for two
bows.
more.
The bows. I have 2 bows, so that's 31.
nice. Is there a tank size that you prefer? I mean, for
Um,
more than another. I'm sure it's for specific reasons, but
I kind of like the 48-inch length, and it's
yeah.
minimum 18, 16 inches is what I have. No, 16 inches deep.
Hmm.
Anything that is in that range, I think it's a really good aquarium because I like to keep plants, and it allows me to like the 75 that I have right here. It seems to be for me an ideal aquarium, but not because I want to keep big fish. For me, I like the bigger aquariums with the smaller fish.
Hmm.
Like if I could have this 75 with some ember tetras, some neon tetras, that kind of stuff. I like
Yeah.
it because you get a different behavior from the fish because they have more room,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
if you can heavily plant it, it's like I don't know. I'm finding that that's the kind of stuff that I like to keep. I have a 300 that I haven't set up because I need help, and what I mean by that, that sucker's heavy, and to
Hmm.
try to I need to repair a crack that's on it, and then I need to be able to turn it over to be able to get uh to seal the that crack. But you know, I don't know anybody that is here locally that could help me. My kids, maybe this summer I'll get around to it because I'm gonna have the grandkids here, and so when the grandkids are here, the parents will be coming over on the weekends to check up on them. So that's when I'm gonna have to take advantages is when I have
Put everybody to work.
yep.
If you want to
But
see your
I
children
need
Just
to
again.
buy the little suction cups that you put on the sides of them to be able to move them.
just
Oh
be
yeah.
careful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Watch the rating for poundage because we thought they would move a lot more than what they were rated for.
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
and suction cups. Yeah.
Yeah, so we ended up using heavy lifting straps for like appliances and stuff like that when we loaded the
Oh, I have
210.
those.
The only problem I have with those, and they worked in our case because it was an acrylic aquarium. I did notice that the straps kind of, depending on how you use them, can put some strain on the surface.
Oh, okay.
And I think on a glass aquarium that I think you could possibly crack something using those straps like that if you're not holding them away from the sides. Like if you hold them straight up or even inwards towards the top,
Yeah.
you're creating pressure onto the sides of the aquarium, which wouldn't be good. But
Well, and that's why I said I needed help. And yeah, I was figuring on doing it from the inside because then you have that water pressure pushing down on it on
hmm.
whatever you patch. But the problem is because that aquarium was set up for a bottom sump, so it's drilled from the bottom. It's got these little standpipes that come down, so I couldn't lay it, bottom down. I have to lay it on its side,
Yeah.
and I need to turn it over so that I can get to the top and be able to seal it. And so that's why I said I need somebody to help me. And then I need a. The other thing is I'm not gonna run a sump on that thing. Um, so I need to seal those get rid of those downpipes that it has, because I'm not gonna run, a sump.
No. What kind of filtration would you use on it?
Biological,
Yeah.
straight biological. I mean, it works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna do it on a bigger scale. That's all.
Nice. Yeah, we got that 210 sitting out in the garage here still.
But then again,
Keep
I think I'm
talking
gonna.
about it, and we never do anything with it. And it's like, well, at least we showed people that it's actually here, and it's not like something. Yeah, I got 210 out in the garage there, and it's not really a thing. It's out there, man, but as soon as we can get all that crap cleared off the back of it, I'm kind of kicking myself in the butt a little bit for even peeling off that background, even though it had to be done. But it's left such a mess, so much silicone on there, and just trying to scrape it without scratching the crap out of that acrylic, and so it's taking a lot of time and it's tedious. I don't care for it doing that. But when we got that tank, it came with 2 fluval canister filters. I don't intend on using 2 of them on that thing. I was hoping that those canisters even work, because I gotta clean them up too. But I thought about, wouldn't it be cool to just have it that big of an aquarium that doesn't even run filtration?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Though at least that's what I'm trying to accomplish. But then again, I'm not gonna run. It's funny because it's a 300 gallon, and immediately when people would say, "Oh, run some Oscars," no, I want to again. I want to set it up so that I can have a good sized colony of nanofish, basically.
Yeah.
Although I guess angelfish are not nano, but that would probably be the biggest species in there, and everything else would be smaller.
We've got plans for that aquarium, since it is technically Katie's tank, which I said, well, now that you have your own tank, I get my 75 back, because she kind of claimed that one as her own. But in the end, they're both ours. We went back and forth on it. She wanted some big fish and was looking at big fish, and I don't know. So far, we've got a few to go into it, and they're starting to grow, which is getting our butts in gear a little faster to get that 210 ready, because the fish that we have for it are sitting in 10-gallon tanks right now, and they're no longer itty bitties. They're getting to be almost 2 inches long. We've got those Jack Dempsey's, electric blue Jack Dempsey's, dealing with some cichlids that I guess I never even wanted to have a bunch of cichlids, but looking at them now, I kind of think they're cool. But I'm really scared about compatibility issues with those kind of fish. So we got 2 electric blue Jack Dempsey's. We got 2 blood parrots, an albino Senegal bichir. We've got 1 tiger blue striped parrotfish, which that thing is really cool for color. I know a lot of people don't like the parrotfish because of their body shape, and blood parrots are pretty common, but that blue striped one, that thing it's a pretty fish. And just kind of
blue polars, is that what it is?
It's a parrotfish, but it's a blue tiger, I think they call it. Tiger stripe.
Okay.
I can almost hear Katie through my headphones yelling at me from the other part of the garage what it's called, but but that thing is really cute. And we do have a Salvini cichlid that we keep in that hex front behind me over here. Kind of right behind the microphone. You can see the aquarium there. Putting all those fish together in one aquarium and not have them kill each other is something
I was gonna
that
say
I'm afraid of.
you're gonna have your hands full with aggression.
Yeah. But they're all kind of in separate tanks right now. The Senegal and the 2 blood parrots are in one tank together. The 2 Jack Dempsey's and that other blue parrotfish are in one tank together, doing fine, but they're young. I kind of wanted to when we set it up to put them all in at once, because it'll be a brand new place, and no one will have time to kind of be the boss of the tank. It won't be like trying to stick them in with that Sylvanie now. She would destroy them because that's her place, and it's way too small of an aquarium for that many of them. But I don't know. It's got me on edge a little bit about that, because I don't want to just have instant failure as soon as we set up that big aquarium, and then just have them all die at the hands of the Sylvanie or something.
Yeah, you just won't know until you try it. I mean, sometimes I've seen some of the, weirdest combinations work out. You just, it's like everything else. Yeah, the Sylvanie will be the tank boss.
I didn't see that Katie put Father Fish's comment on there about clearing the pipes and cover the holes from the inside. Is that kind of your...
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Luckily, it's an acrylic aquarium, so once you use that acrylic cement, you kind of fuse everything together, so it should be good.
What I was trying to convince Katie, instead of trying to scrape all of that all that silicone off the back that was left behind from the background, is cover it all with more in a way. Jeff Kane had a cool idea for like backgrounds, or at least I don't know if it was his original idea, but it was new to us when he told us. Setting rock to the back of your aquarium, just regular, just pebbles. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of people doing that? Just taking
it's kind of a common practice in reptile cages. When they set them up that way, that's kind of, I've seen them do that.
Lay the aquarium on its back and squirt some silicone on there, and just kind of set stone like you're doing stonework for a chimney or something.
I've seen it done more with the expanding foam, because it'll hold a little bit better. Right. And then you can also carve the foam to make it look like additional rocks, like bigger rocks. Because the problem you're going to run into is if you try to put rocks that are too big, you have the weight issue. Mm-hmm. But if you get some smaller real stones and combine them with some that you carve out to give it more of that realistic look, you could probably pull it off. And use your bigger rock formations be out of that expanding foam, and you could achieve that by just cutting the edges that you want, and then just kind of painting them to kind of resemble whatever stone you want.
So that's another idea that we have for it, because instead of having to go through the work of peeling all that old stuff off, just get most of it cleaned up and then just cover right back over top with it with something
or
else.
The other thing is if you paint the outside black, you're not going to be able to see the silicone.
It's painted already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the sides.
Have you put water in it and you can actually see it?
No.
Well,
no, we haven't put any water into it yet. But
there's chunks of styrofoam caught in the silicone from the previous background.
Yeah, it was an old aqua decor background that was falling apart, and it was all made of styrofoam, and so I ended up peeling it all off of there, and it left chunks of white styrofoam and silicone everywhere on it. It's just a mess.
No, Rachel just said Boots Cats said that Stephen P has a video where he did a background with using styrofoam or foam, or that expandable foam. So there's a couple of videos out there. I know Kazawa Tanks did something like that too. There's quite a few of them. If you just kind of Google DIY backgrounds, you're going to come across a bunch of these ideas. And what's nice is you can kind of pick and choose what you like from each one and make it your own.
That's kind of how we do things around here. That's our name. We just kind of throw our own design into things. And it's, you can get good ideas from people, and we never try to steal things or put out stuff that they're like, look what we came up with. It's never been like that, but it's kind of the learning process with anything you do. You learn from someone else, and then you kind of make it your own. And
well,
that's what I love about this hobby.
One of the things I've always, if you get a good idea from somebody, they might not be the originators of that idea, but I'll mention them. Like, so and so, I saw a video on so and so's person, and I saw what they did. So I'm, borrowing the idea or whatever you want to call it. But at the end, you always do adaptations that work for you better. That's all it is. But I don't have a problem with people. I mean, that's the whole reason why we do these videos anyways, is to share what we're doing so that others can learn from it and use it.
That's how we got started on being back into this hobby, is keeping a few fish for ponds and looking up what we needed to do to make our own filters for things, and stumbled across tons of good, very good content, and then getting to know the people that are behind making the content, and learning from you guys personally, and doing these live streams, and just it is a really good resource for aquarium keepers out there. The whole YouTube thing is really a lot better than just going and getting books,
I'm not gonna lie to you. I found that the easiest background to do is called Jungle Val.
Yeah.
You just plant a little bit and it'll grow the whole back, and it'll cover the entire back.
We might just do that too. I just want to get as much off as possible so it doesn't look horrible. I mean, it's not like we have the most pristine looking tanks around. Even though our goldfish tank is the bare bottom, because it's always been that way, and all of our backgrounds are either painted black, or we use like window tint because it's quicker. You don't have to wait for the paint to dry. But then sometimes light comes through anyways, but it's not big on trying to make everything look perfect. However, that 210, it just looks like garbage right now, and it's like, what is that, styrofoam? And that's what.
Well, I guess
to look nice.
I guess you do want to have like a display tank for, if you want to call it that. Yeah. To be able to see what it is you could actually be able to pull off. And then the other ones are just like, different projects. That's the way I treat them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That and the 210 is definitely going to be that for us. I mean, like we were talking about taking ideas and using them. We went with Father Fish's idea after watching his stuff of doing something with a deep substrate and planted. And that's turned out great.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, we watched enough of his videos to kind of learn what the ingredients he was using. And, sorry, Lou, we didn't go and we didn't buy your mix off your website, because we're kind of frugal. And Katie works at a hardware store that's actually a greenhouse and plant provider and stuff. She knows her things. And she went and got all the ingredients. And we just kind of mixed it up ourselves, kind of according to what we thought would go in there. We got measurements watching his videos, but like we're saying, you just kind of put your own twist to it a little bit and experiment. But if it hadn't been for him and his videos, I don't think we would have even attempted to try that. So we always give him credit about it all the time, because it's really, he's the one that inspired it.
I think most of us that are running Planet Aquariums without using active substrate are using some of Father's Fish, that deep substrate. I know this one down here was my very first Planet tank, and I did a deep substrate on it. The only thing that I had an issue with that one was I didn't have enough plants when I first started it up, because I only bought like a group here and there, so it ended up having way too many nutrients, and not enough plants to consume that. But as it grew in, to be honest, it took me for all those plants, because I might have bought maybe like three bundles of Val, and then maybe 2 or 3 other ones of Luigia, and some rotala. Obviously, it was not enough plants for a 55-gallon. But at the time, that's what I could kind of afford. It wasn't that I could afford. It was I could afford without having to explain the money that I was spending in the aquarium.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what that
The
was.
budget. It was part
Yeah.
of the budget.
Yeah, it was, one of those where if I drop $20, I don't have to explain where I got the money from. But if I'm dropping $150, my wife is going to be like, "What did
Yeah.
you need $150 for?"
Exactly.
So $20, I can kind of, is like nobody will
Katie
notice.
got a good deal when we got those plants, and I think it was only, was it 60 or $80?
It was 80 after shipping, but it was 60 originally just for all
Yeah, the
plants.
shipping was kind of something. And it was something she found on Amazon, but that was a big box of plants. And actually, after putting them into that 75, we're gonna have to find some more footage of that and do an, like I said, update video and try to show them after we put those plants in there, because I thought there were a lot of plants until we put them into the 75. I was like, wow, that's really not much in there. But you take a look at it now, and it is completely filled. And we've actually had to take plants out. We've harvested, and now all of our tanks, pretty much, except for the goldfish, have plants in them. And they're all from that tank. And especially like the Java moss just took off. And it started out with like a softball size, less than maybe like a baseball size clump of it, and now we've got huge balls of it everywhere.
Yeah, and just keep pulling it and putting it in all the other tanks.
And that's what's cool about having live plants. You
Yeah.
you want to go to the store and buy your plastic plants, fine. Will they not die? Absolutely, they'll last forever. But you have to keep buying them. You have to keep buying more if you want some plants and something else. And to me,
you can do that, or you can be patient, like I've been, because I have a 10-gallon aquarium that I would say, is giving me plants for almost 80% of what I have has been harvested out of a 10-gallon aquarium. Again, it's got soil in it, organic soil capped off with sand, and that's been my plant reproducer, I guess, because I'll buy a clutch of different species. Like right now, that aquarium is growing out all my dwarf chain sorts, and it's carpeted the entire bottom. And now I can pull from there and use it to scape other stuff. But
That's the best thing about those things.
Yeah, when people ask me what's the one recommendation, I tell them you got to have patience. Patience is probably the biggest thing in this hobby that you need to have, and you'll have success. I don't believe in chemicals. I don't. I know they're a convenience and they work, but they're not a solution.
Right.
They're not a solution. Not like some people like to advertise that that's the only way to do things, and you got to use this specific product to be able to have success. That's not true. If you give it time, if you're willing to really do the hobby and let things evolve naturally, you'll have a lot more success. You'll have aquariums that are a lot more stable versus trying to have that instant gratification.
Exactly. There's we do use a dechlorinator of one form or another, just from being on city tap water. I know there's ways to get around it.
Yeah.
And let it gas off naturally. Right now, we're just not set up for that. It's something I'd like to do in the future, though. But so for now, that's pretty much the only thing we use. We do, when we got that big aquarium, the guy gave us lights and decor, and he was getting out of chemicals. So he's like, "Do you want all these?" And it was a bunch of Chem products and stuff. And I said, "Well, yeah, sure, if you're just going to throw them out." And I thought, well, to me, it's hard for me to let something go to waste, So we have a variety of different things, but we have them just in case kind of things. And most of them, to be honest, I don't even know how to use them. There's like pH adjustment powders and stuff, which I
Mm.
probably could just toss them away. But I've heard, there's certain things you can use for other purposes, like the acid that comes in certain tests. You can test your rocks to see if they're hard enough. You know, uh, kind of getting off topic, I guess. I don't like using chemicals either. It just to me it doesn't. When I have used them in the past, you can tell right away the fish don't like them. It's like they can sense it in the water. There's something. It just gives. There's a bad vibe to it in my mind.
Hey, Jake, let me take a quick break. I'll be right back.
No problem. Well, we got a lot of people showing up on here, and sorry if I ramble on sometimes, but that's just kind of part of the way these things go, right? Live streams are for talking. Yeah, I think that when we finally do get this big tank set up, Katie, it's going to be kind of a game changer for us as far as our hobby goes, and seeing what can be done with a big tank. We never really. 75 has been the biggest that we've had, and this is a lot bigger than that. One thing I like about I guess one of my favorite parts of the hobby is playing around with all of the equipment. And that's why I do like the natural tanks and having no filter, but at the same time I like to play with things that make the water move. That's always been my thing when I was a kid, is that what really attracted me to aquariums was the sound of water moving and seeing the bubbles move, and just how water moves around. The water was my favorite part before the fish. Like I swear, as a kid, I could have been happy with an empty aquarium and just have different pumps and making it fall over things and making waterfalls and stuff like that. I'm sure when I was younger, I probably could have cared less if there was fish in it at all. So getting a 210-gallon aquarium to play with and see how much water we can move around, that's that's why kind of we like the outdoor ponds, and why I like setting those up, because trying to make waterfalls and water features being, I'd like to try and tie that in a little more with aquarium keeping in here, is adding water features to plain aquariums.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's been done a million times, or it's out there, but it's not a common thing that you see. Usually people just put their filters on, put a lid on there, and keep it all tight and inside there. Like, the most thing they'll do is maybe add a sump, and that kind of pumps the water in and out, which is cool to me too. But to have like a waterfall next to your aquarium, and that's actually functionally helping the water aerate the water, filter the water, and it's pretty to look at. That, so that's kind of the goal that we're going to be doing in here. Aside from that 210, is having a 55-gallon tank that I got sitting out there too, have that tied into our pond and into a bog systems and whatnot, so we can have like kind of an aquaponic, plants in the water, plants out of the water, and have it all functional and aesthetically pleasing at the same time. So that's our other goal inside of here. It's kind of the end of my rambling. Welcome back.
Oh yeah, I had to go use the restroom, man. I was doing
water
the pee-pee
change.
dance. Yeah, the water change.
That's what I say. I'll be right back. I do a quick water change.
Vibes has hashtag bucket. We have hashtag water change.
Yeah, so I don't know how much time you got left, man, for
I'm good, man.
Okay.
I'm
I know
already done with my work this morning, so unless my grandkids bust through that door,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Cool. We'll go on for a little bit longer. We do use the free account on StreamYard, so
Oh,
I try
okay.
to keep a little bit of extra time available, but we never really go through it. I think I used half of my monthly allowance so far on
Yeah.
it, and it resets like in a week, so we're probably
Oh, okay.
fine. We can go for like 10 hours tonight if you want.
Well,
It should
he's
be
got
all
to
right.
go eat steak, remember?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's when they just show up. They're driving. It's about an hour drive from where he's coming.
Oh,
Oh,
So
okay.
okay.
so yeah,
That's what I
and
kind of
I
want to
guess
make sure.
he didn't get off of work till 4, so I got till 6.
Nice. Is there anyone that wants to ask Mexicali some questions here? We've been trying to be vigilant on it. And, well, at least Katie's been doing a good job keeping track of the chat. I tend to not look at it at
Uh
all.
oh.
I'll glance over at it, but usually I'm staring at the camera or looking back and forth.
Katie brought out the notepad. That cannot be good.
Oh, I got one too. Here's mine. This is our note here too.
If I don't write down certain things, I won't remember.
Furnace.
I remember to turn the furnace back on.
Yeah, we shut it off for all of our lives. Otherwise, that's all you're going to hear in the background every so many.
That and it's warm.
What is it?
Yeah.
A wood pellet stove?
No.
Blower?
No, it's actually an upright. I guess the closest thing you can call it is a trailer home furnace, but
Oh,
it's,
okay.
It's an old Dearborn.
Oh, okay.
I
But
use it to
it's
keep my
nice and hot.
calendar on it. Yeah. Yeah, just
Oh, we have a question from Father Fish for you.
Okay.
Whoops. It
That's
always
not-
moves when I go to click. There we go.
What am I raising? Predominantly live bears. I have mollies, platies, guppies, least killifish. I have a couple of egg scatters in the form of celestial pearl daniels, pseudomcgill, furcatas, and my display over here, although I'm not trying to breed them, it's my Buenos Aires tetras. They throw eggs all the time, but they're in a community aquarium with cories on the bottom. So they basically produce snacks for the cories. And angelfish. Angelfish was actually the one fish that I've purposely tried to breed successfully. And it took me a while to figure it out too. It wasn't as easy as people were making it seem like. But I think I've got it down now where whenever I want to be able to collect the eggs and get them to grow out. As a matter of fact, if you want, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I can put my phone on and we can kind of do a walkthrough through the fish room.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right, let me get to the email. There it is.
Yeah, I do that a lot. That's kind of our hack of being able to have multi-cameras on the free StreamYard. Is that well, Katie's a moderator, so she's got her own account on there, so she can do that, and then I'll just copy the link to my phone.
Yeah.
And then I
And,
invite him on stage.
And then
All right, I'm going to mute this
I can do
one.
multi-cameras.
Or no, the other way around. I want to mute this one.
Like here's the Katie cam. You let me know when you want that other camera on. I see you backstage. Probably.
Wait, it's
try
pointed
it.
at me.
There
Okay.
we go.
Let me flip it.
Flip it around.
There we go. All right, let me get some light. Now, I'm not going to be able to hear you guys, I don't think.
Check. Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. There you go. right, let me turn on some light. This is the pond that I was talking about, the little tote. I guess we could start with that one and show you what I'm talking about. As far as there's no filtration other than biological, but hopefully you guys will be able to see in there.
Oh wow.
Those are the
Neat.
those are the platies. And like I said, this water is like super, super clear, but it's got tannin, so it makes it a little bit hard to look in there. Let me see if I got a light. Oh, hold on. Let me get this light over here. So this one is just a 20-gallon tote that I threw some platy fry in here, and I've got some cold shrimp in here. I don't know what else is in there, but there's no substrate other than moam. All this at the bottom is nothing but moam. I'm gonna stir it up. You know, all that right there is just moam. I don't have any substrate in there. But, you know, it's probably one of the better looking tanks that I have. It's not even a tank though. That's the sad part. So this is like currently my favorite aquarium. It's a 55-gallon.
Cool.
That's
And I broke all the rules that you can have where you're not supposed to put tall plants in the front, which at this point for me, it was more about the fish than following any rules or anything like that. And it's interesting because I notice a different behavior on the fish. They don't get startled as easy. And I think it's because they kind of feel secure because they have all that valve in the front. And, you know, I can run my hand through there and they don't really run away. In here, I have some wild molly, some swordtails, some platies. I also have a group of crebensis that are hiding in this rock pile, and they'll come out once in a while.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking about, using more rock piles in ours for reasons.
Well, you'll notice that theme through all my aquariums. I have rock piles in all of them, and it's probably one of the reasons why I'm also able to keep shrimp with a lot of these other fish, because they have a place to be able to hide out and still be able to reproduce. Obviously, the numbers are going to be different based on the predators that are in the aquarium. The more predators, the less the shrimps. But if I sit here long enough, I'll be able to spot some of these shrimp in here. This other tote, if you also look at the bottom, it's full of rocks. I don't know if you're going to be able to see them in here, but you can see the bottom right there. I have rocks in all my aquariums. I have rocks. So those are pretty much a group of different kind of live bears in there. In here is my my Neolamprologus aquarium, and I've got a ton of fry in here. They all seem like they started hatching out at the same time. And of course, I have to have plants. I don't care what it is. I need to have plants. So
Yes.
those have plants. This is another aquarium, it's a 10-gallon that I set up with only biological filtration. And this is another one that's kind of set it and forget it. And the water is like super clear. I have mosquito fish in here that are out of the Colorado River. So
Neat.
because what I tried to do is I tried to replicate the actual environment where I got them from. So that was the inspiration for this aquascape. And that's what I did with it. So that's a 10-gallon in the bottom. At half the time I forget to even feed because it's down there. But,
Right.
you know, fish will survive.
For sure.
And these are the two bowls that I was talking about. I got stuff laying everywhere.
Those are cool.
These are.
I want to do
this is
some more bowls. Yeah.
Yeah, these are some really shrimp that are in there, and that's all I have in there. But I got a bunch of algae. I got to clean them out.
I like that
But
setup
again-
with the black backgrounds on there. Like that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a bookshelf and it's black, so it just worked out perfect.
Nice.
My daughter was getting rid of it. I said, "Don't throw it away. I can use it."
That's a
So
good
this
idea.
one I got to
think
go in
have
there.
one around.
This one, again, strictly biological filtration. I do have some algae growing in there, but I don't care. It's really, if you look at the shrimp, that's what they're eating off of. I don't feed these aquariums. This one I don't feed, and this one seldom do I feed. And I have some neon green rasboras. I only have like 3 of them in here because it's only a 3-gallon bowl. But I got to clean the glass. It's got a algae on the glass. But again, it's running only biological filtration on that.
Do you ever use those? Well, I just say the brand name because you can get off-brand, but the Mr. Clean erasers for cleaning the inside. We found that trick a while back, and
there
it
is
amazing.
These
yeah,
right here.
I bought huge packs of those on that Temu site or whatever. You can get like packs of 30.
Right there. You know, anybody that recognizes that brand, they know what big department store that's from.
Yeah. Yep. We get them from a dollar store for real cheap local, or I can get them online for even cheaper. But man, are they awesome for cleaning the inside for stuck on stuff.
This is a 5-gallon where I have a betta and I'm trying to reproduce them. So I got the male separated in here, and I'm trying to power feed him and get him ready to start doing a bubble nest. So
Nice.
that's the next one that I'm going to purposely try to breed our bettas. In here is the 75 that I was talking about. This tank dimension has quickly become my favorite size because it allows me to do a lot of things with them. I've got a Severum that somebody was getting rid of, so because I had the 75, I could put them in here. And those are the Buenos Aires and the Colombian. And I have these Bolivian rams, which I think these are like some of the most underrated rams out there. The problem with these guys is that when you find them at the store, they don't have any of these colors on them. And the camera's not really picking up the pink on them. But once they get settled in, you know, they get real nice. They rival the German blues. But the biggest thing is these guys are a lot sturdier.
Yeah.
And so those have quickly become one of my favorites. I started out with a group of 6, but then I think they're all males because they were going at each other and I never got anything to pair off. The only thing that survived in here was another one that's usually hiding in the back because I think he's a dominant male. And anytime the other one comes up to the front, he runs them off to the other side of the aquarium. But on that one is mostly the only plant that I found that I can keep in here are Amazon swords, because these guys will eat any other plant that I put in there. So the Buenos Aires, I used to have, if you noticed, all my aquariums have Junco Val. That's kind of like my go-to plant. These guys eat it like spaghetti. They'll start at one end and nibble it all the way down to the roots. So that's my 75. This is a 55-gallon, which is a little bit different than the standard 55. The standard 55 is 48 by 12.5 by, I think, 21 tall. This one is a 48 by 16. So what you get in depth, you lose it in height. I don't know if you can tell the difference in the height.
Yep.
So this one's a little bit shorter, but it's a little bit wider. And in here, it's my plecograph. You can see all sorts of plecos everywhere. There's what I was talking about, the fern, the Java fern. It always, doesn't matter what time of the year, it always turns brown on me. And that's supposed to be one of the easy plants. I have shrimp in here too that are just kind of surviving in here. There's a lot more in here that really meets the eye. I mean, whenever I feed, they just come out of the workbook. I have a colony of cherry barbs in here, a surviving cardinal tetra that I got from somebody that was getting rid of fish, 2 green fire tetras, and I think a Von Reel. Those were all kind of given to me at the same time. And I just kind of threw them in here. And all I run on this one is the sponge filter in the back. And that's pretty much it.
Nice.
Now this one of the things that I do, I really like what Father Fish was doing with the deep substrate, but I also wanted to see what happens if you don't use any soil. So this aquarium originally was just gravel and sand, not the play sand, but the sand that they sell you for when you want to put pavers on the ground. So it's a little bit coarser and you got a little bit more pebbles.
Yeah.
Now, over the course of the year, and because it's a pleco tank, one of the things that I get a lot of is mold.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening, because I do have a lot of trumpet snails, Toby, get out of the way. Come on, get over here. Because I do have a ton of Malaysian trumpet snails in here. They go up and down, and they're working that mold into the substrate. And you can see that it's getting down to the roots of all this valve. And once that started happening, this valve just took off. So that was inert substrate in the beginning, and now it's an active substrate because I leave the mold. And the mold works itself into the gravel and it feeds my plant.
I think that's why that hex front is working so well for us. It's just sand that I put in there, and I used to vacuum out because got a big pleco in there and creates a lot of waste, and I'd clean it out all the time, and now I just like, I'm gonna leave it. The plants are gonna absorb it. I know it, and so now it doesn't really build up. You see a little bit of it here and there, but I'm starting to see like a color change of like the layers of the sand. Is top layer is a lot different color than the bottom layer of that sand. And it's like it's slowly turning into more of a soil base at the bottom.
Yeah, so down here I have a 10-gallon with a crawfish that I also got out of the Colorado River, and playing up after my dog. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to see him right now. He's probably hiding in his rock pile. Yeah, he's in that rock pile somewhere back there. Oh, there he is on top. So that's the crawfish that I pulled out of the Colorado River also. This is a new group of about 8 Japanese blue leer-tail guppies that I recently got. And I'm going to try to breed them out in this tote. It'll be one of the few straight lines that I'll have in this fish room. Most of the guppies were guppies that I got from the big box store that we have here, and I was trying to line them out, but kind of gave up on that after a while. This is the original father fish aquarium. All right, you guys can, Toby, go to your bed. Go to your bed. As you guys can see, this has got a lot of substrate in here. This was the first organic soil with a cap on it. It started off with a 1 inch of soil, and I think it was 3 inches of sand. But again, this is the one that I started out with a small clump of jungle valve, and obviously it wasn't enough to be able to absorb or keep up with all the nutrients, so I kept capping it to try to counteract that. So, but this aquarium is my longest running aquarium. This one has to be, how long? I want to say I set this up in like 2008. I think it's when I set this one up. And it's moved a couple of times already from different houses, and all I do is lower down the water, move it to where it got to go, and then fill it back up. And as you guys can see, the plants are really thriving. I got some crips in here and some jungle valve. And this one I just recently, it was full, but for that aquarium for the Children's Museum, I pulled all the valve that I had up here in the front. That's why it looked a little bit sparse in here. But that's just where I put all the guppies, all the fancy guppies, and just kind of throw them in there. I also got rid about, if you look at the last video I had in here, you can see all the fry now. I used to not be able to see fry because I had so many adults in here that used to kind of eat them. And I've got rid of, I would say 80% that was in here before. And took them up to the pet store in Phoenix. And now they're starting to bounce back. I purposely left mostly females with a few select males. Try to see if I get, other nicer I really like that leucistic with the red tail. Let me see. Yeah, that guy right there. He's tiny, but I love the coloration on him.
Yeah.
So I might pull some females that are still juveniles before some of the other males get to them, and try to see if I can breed more of this guy. I just like his colors. He's not albino because his eyes are not red.
Yeah.
But so that's my 55. This is currently my active breeding pair of angelfish. There's the marble with the golden, and they're the parents of all of these guys down here.
Oh,
Now
wow.
this was
Nice.
after several attempts to try to grow out the fry. This was finally when I cracked it, and I said I got it. And the key to this was vinegar eels and microworms and grindle worms is what got me to the point where they got to a point where I could now have them on pellet. So these are all basically byproducts of the parents up there. And then this one is
we'll
my
have to get into is getting those worm cultures started.
yeah, and this one is just my colony of tiger barbs. This is also an acrylic 55. I got to clean the inside of this. It's a little bit dirty, but it's real dark right now because I have this plant on top. I like keeping. There you go. Now you guys can be able to see it. But I like keeping. Ever since I discovered that terrestrial plants can also help you, absorb a lot of those nutrients from the water column, I started using them. I've got potos running out of the back of that, and you'll see some around. And this one's working its way around. It's even in this 150. And then here, I've got mollies mostly. These guys are pretty big. And there's another pair of angelfish in here. And I don't pull any of these eggs just because I'm not set up like a breeding colony. But I know the day that if I want to do some veil tails, then I could pull these guys out and they'll be all right.
Yeah.
So that's a 150. You already saw this is like a 60-gallon, I think. But it's a tall. It's 38 inch long. I think it's like 16 deep. And I want to say like 25 tall, somewhere around there. Over here is where I do some of the breeding. It's all live bears. So to say that I breed live bears is, not really an honest, because they breed themselves. This is the female betta that I'm going to use with that other male, and he's kind of growing in here. These were some antlers that I was trying to, I didn't have any females, so I got some female guppies and trying to see if I can get anything that resembles them. I still have a long ways to go to be able to do that. These are more of those leucistic guppies that I've been able to pull out. And but I still have probably about another year of work on these guys to get them to where they're breeding at least 80% true. In here are my McGills, the fricatas. In here, I'm hoping I can get these guys to breed. So that's what I have in here. These are obviously egg scatters, or I got to put a mop in there and start pulling the mop, but I haven't done it. I haven't gotten around to it. This is why I don't like messing with my aquariums and doing water changes. This thing was super, super clear until one day unnecessarily I made a water change on it. It's got a filter, but it's not running. So this is another filterless aquarium. A lot of the filtration is happening because of the plants that I'm growing off the top. And I made too big of a water change and just kind of threw it out of balance. So that's why I really don't. If I can avoid having to do a water change, I just leave them alone. The bioload on these guys, because they're the least killing fish, there is no bioload. I mean, it's very minimum.
Right.
So, I kind of kick myself in the butt for going against what I know that's true and tried. But, it's kind of like one of those, I got to try it and see if it works or not. Yeah. Now, this is the aquarium that I was talking about that's been my plant producer. And right now it's got, I think it's dwarf chain swords that are growing out in here, or Sagittaria. I don't know. I bought both species, but I don't know which one survived. But you can see where this is heavily grown out. So now I can afford to pull some of it out and use it for other scapes. And you can see some of these Luigia kind of just going wild. I have some Bacopa, some Rotala. In here, I have a group of the clown killifish, but it turned out that what I ended up getting was a group of females. I didn't get any males with them, so now I got to find some males. And then these are the ones that I really, really, really wanted, but I didn't know they were like super shy, and I never see them. I have in here 11 Celestial Pearl Daniels.
Oh, yeah?
Oh.
We were just thinking about getting some of those.
And the problem is, it's real heavy planted, which I thought that was going to encourage them to be out here in the front. But they hide out in the back of the aquarium, and if I go behind it, they all run to the front. So what I have to do,
different than the zebras, huh?
Oh yeah, what I have to do is I'll feed it up here, and then I'll roll back and sit at this angle, and I'll watch them come up the side, and then I'll just kind of peek my head and I'll see them in here in the front. And as soon as they see me, boom, they're darted out to the back. So I haven't figured out how to get them to be up in the front. But that's what I have in there. Up here, I have a group of white clouds and a 20 long. Again, this is just, it's all my tanks double as plant farms and fish. They hold fish. Mm-hmm. The problem here is I've seen them lay eggs or throw eggs. Problem is all the shrimp that I have in here, which I think they're eating all the eggs because I haven't seen fried.
Oh, yeah.
And right now it doesn't seem like there's a lot of shrimp in here, but anytime I feed, I'm always surprised how many shrimp are in there. I mean, there's just tons of shrimp in here, but you never really see them. Now that I'm looking closer, I can see more and more. You know, there's one up there on the rock. But when I really feed and the food gets out here, there's got to be over 100 shrimp in there. But I think they're eating the eggs. So if I really want to successfully breed these guys, I've got to put them in a different setup to be able to capture the egg and then get them to hatch. Down here, this became an accidental pleco producing tank. I threw in here a couple of Bristol plecos when they were about the size of that one there. And it turned out that I happened to throw a male and a female. I have no caves in here, but yet you'll see tons of little fry growing out in here. I don't know where they're putting the eggs, but I don't know if it's there. I guess they're using the spaces in between the rocks and using them as nests. And but there's tons and tons of Bristol plecos in here. And I also have another betta in here that hopefully I can also get him to breed eventually. Down here, this is I started out with some PetSmart double ears with no females, and I've been selectively trying to breed them out. I still have a long ways to go because the females, you know, they don't. I got to crossbreed whatever traits that I see that I like from these guys, and trying to get them to grow. And then down here, this is just more Toby. But
He just wants to help.
No, he wants me to pet him. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
In here, 310 gallons. These are all mosquito fish from the Colorado River. In here, that I'm just kind of, I went and I was trying to fish out the mollies, and these guys came along, so I put them in an aquarium. And these are just like mud guppies. They're not anything. They started out as coals, and what I do is I'll pull females out of here that are young, and that I know have not been impregnated by any of the males, and try to use them as breeders. In here is my platies. It's just a 20-gallon full of platies. Again, plants are just overrunning this aquarium. There's actually an Amazon sword in the back that you can't even see. I just let it go. Uh, this one has a sponge filter, but it hardly puts out any movement. So it's almost like it's running on its own. And in here, these are my wild mollies, the same ones that Eddie has. And I've already got some fry out of these guys. And so hopefully I'll get some. The male that was in with her, he died off. So I'm hoping that some of these guys will become males in the future. If not, I've got another one in that aquarium back there that I can probably try to pull the male out of there and have him pair up with her. But one of the other things is I constantly spend time on the internet and people talk about different types of filtration, what works, what doesn't work. And I'm the type that has to try it. So this is and I know Father Fish is probably going to get upset, but this is actually a Dr. Or Kevin Novak setup. It's got the kittylator with the laterite and the underground filtration. Now, people say, does the denitrification work? Well, I left this tank alone for a long time, and the plants were not doing very well because there wasn't enough nutrients in here. Now, this is the only aquarium that I'll actually have to add fertilizers to keep the plants from turning yellow. If you look at the difference between this hornwort and this hornwort, is because this one, I never register any nitrates in here. So, does it work? I don't know. I guess. I mean, if the plants are approved with that, I would say it does. Compared to these other ones where it's the same water, everything's the same except the way that this is set up, and but it's also got a deep ass substrate. So I think it's a combination of both. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks for sharing with everybody.
Those are.
Don't forget, you're on mute.
Yeah, I figured that out. I was going to do a jack.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Now I got to check and make sure. The problem is that I got this running through a soundboard, and I can hear myself whether it's muted or not, so I can't tell. And there's no light to show that it's on mute. It's a little tiny red button, and yeah. And most of y'all are just not even saying anything. Just let me go on and on, just blah, blah, blah.
For a good 15 minutes. We can't hear you, we finally see.
Yeah. That's funny. Very funny. Thanks, guys. Good looking out.
Yeah, so that's a little walkthrough to the fish room. I mean, I'm not.
That's awesome.
Again, here, the biggest problem that I have, or the challenge that I've had, is that the only available access to fish is a PetSmart. That's it. I have to drive either 3.5 miles east to go to Phoenix, or 3.5 miles west to go to San Diego. So, like, I'm sitting right in the smack dab of both of those, and it goes to the same thing when I go to club meetings. So that's why going to Phoenix, when you said, "Oh, I can't believe you did that in one day." Well, I do club meetings in one day.
Yeah.
I leave early in the morning, do the club meeting. By the time they get done around 5 or 6, I'm driving back home. So it's kind of like a normal thing for me.
Yeah, for me, driving makes me extremely tired. I'm not a good long distance driver. I get the road hypnosis way too easily, and I just feel shot by the time I get anywhere. I don't really feel like moving around or doing too much after sitting in a vehicle for too long.
Yeah.
But what I like about your tanks is the amount of plants that you have in there, and my question is, with that amount of plants in a tank, and I kind of have a good understanding of how it all works with the oxygenation and whatnot, or with the gas exchanges. on water, but to me it seems like you want more surface agitation for that sort of thing. So have you found with more plants you don't necessarily need something to agitate the surface or to circulate the water as much?
You know what? I don't know, because if you look at Lucas Brett's, he doesn't run any agitation on his aquariums. As a matter of fact, all his
Right.
aquariums are biological.
Yeah.
He doesn't run any mechanical filtration out of his aquariums.
Because I found with like doing like aquaponics, say, but those are like terrestrial plants, right, where the
Mhm.
roots are dipped in the water. I found that I can do like I forgot which version they call it, but basically they're just sitting, the roots are in the water, and I just have an air stone underneath the roots just to keep the water from being stagnant, because when you don't have that, it seems like then the roots die off. But that's on terrestrial plant, that where the greenery isn't in the water, the leaves and whatnot. So I'm just wondering what if with aquatic plants, is there less need of water movement? And obviously must be the case, because it seems to be working for a lot of people, including yourself.
Yeah. I I tend to run. I try to agitate the surface, especially during the summertime, because of the temperatures. The hotter these aquariums get, the least available oxygen there's in there. So in the summer, I will crank up these aquariums as much as I can, as far as because I've run a lot of these off of air driven systems. So whether it's air stones or sponge filters, um, I try to crank them up pretty hard, uh, which doesn't help with the evaporation either, because you got all that mist that's coming out of there. You're losing water there too,
Hmm.
which is one of the reasons why I have to top off every 2 or 3 days, or else I'll lose like half of the water volume in the aquarium. Um, but during the winter, I notice that it's not so much the case. But as far as water agitation, I don't think you need it, because again, I go back to Lucas Brett's. If you look at his fish room, it's total silence. So that means he's not driving any air or anything through his aquariums, and they do fine. You do get some quonky stuff like the one that I showed you, where the least killifish are at, where you get some bacterial blooms sometimes, but that's because I did too much of a water change. Now I got to wait for a while for that to balance out again, and go back so that it looks clear like the other ones. Um, I'm I know it works, but if I'm being honest, I'm being a chicken shit, because I don't want to do it on the bigger aquariums. But I
Right.
could turn off the
Yeah.
pumps. I know if I turn off the pumps, I know it works. I could make this fish room completely silent, and not run any air, and everything will be fine. Um, I think once I do install that mini split in here, I'm definitely doing it, because then I don't have to worry about it getting too hot in
Hmm.
here. That I'll be able to pull that off. That's the only thing. It's the summers for me down here. I can't afford not to have any surface agitation.
Right. Yeah, it's something that I think that we're gonna definitely try to do eventually. That's why we get a lot of these smaller tanks and stuff. Not only just to have quarantine tanks, but to have kind of experimental things where we can try different methods with things and see how it works. That's our fish room. We have everything from deep substrate to bare bottom, and some stuff that's in between.
Oh,
So,
they're here.
Time to eat.
Time to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you came on with us, man. I appreciate that you reached out to us and said you could be willing to come on to our show. If anyone else is interested, please email us and let us know if you guys want to be just a special guest on our show. We try to have a special guest every week. We don't always do that, and then it's just Katie and I kind of talking. But that's cool too, because we can do like panel shows and whatnot. But Mexicali, Jorge, we are so honored to have you on here, and
Most definitely.
we'll have to do it again sometime, man.
Oh no, we're definitely doing it again. I came up here because I am expecting something in return.
I see. I see.
No, but I want to say thank you though. I really had a blast. I've been wanting to be able to exchange words with you guys ever since Jimmy presented you guys to the community. I really have had fun watching you guys, and it's time to turn the tables.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
Well, that Jimmy just got us into a whole lot of trouble now.
Yeah.
Introducing
Well,
us to all you guys.
I got to run. I want to say thank you everybody that joined us to these 2 hours of 2 hours plus.
Yeah.
It didn't seem that long, but thank you guys, and I'll see you guys soon. I'll see you guys in the chat somewhere along the night. I'll probably pop in somewhere.
Sounds good. Thank
For
you.
sure.
Again.
Thank you. Have a good night. Enjoy your supper.
Oh yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye.